Hi everybody and welcome. You are watching week 2 of the Quake Pro League of our latest season. My name's Ketchup. I'm joined by Flea. Mate, it's been what feels like forever since we've sat and done this.
Too long.
Welcome back, though, mate. Welcome back.
Yeah, no, we haven't gone to COS together since what? The finals last year? Indeed, it's been an eternity.
It has been too long, but you know what? That changes today. As we have got a jam-packed day full of Quake goodness, as you've grown to expect by now. But I mean, hey, we've got a bunch of players. Everyone's raring to go. Even our first matchup going to be between Maxter and Hron, which that's always going to be a great match anyway between these two, especially seeing as, you know, we're in that position where the season's now in full swing. We've started off. Are players going to have a few teething problems getting back into this thing? I don't know. I think a lot of people have been streaming. A lot of people have been doing their practice games. Everyone's looking pretty good. And I think a lot of that was very much kind of reflected by last week's action. I think for a lot of these players, you know, we have to talk about how Quake Champions has been around for a hot minute at this point, and many of these players have been around since day one, and obviously it's Quake, right? Long before Quake Champions 2, so I think there's very much an element of been there, done that, won the t-shirt in this case, and last week was just a lovely welcome back, I think, Flea.
Absolutely, and it's also just lovely to see some new or recurring faces in the Quake Pro League, right? Hron, Sip, players who have been in and out of the league are now making their appearance once again. We're getting to see some highlights of their last week's matchup. Sip ended up taking the win, 2-1. But then we also, for example, have got Toxic making another appearance, and players like Strongsage for the first time competing with the big boys.
It's an element of Quake Champions that I was kind of waiting for, that I'm glad we were able to see, is people that have kind of got into Quake Champions a little bit later down the line and are like, hang on a minute, I really like this game. This game's fun as hell. Let me see what's going on in the competitive sense. And they sort of try their hand at it. I know there's much more to it than that, you know, not to undersell it, but that's what I love about sort of new installments of legendary franchises, is always this idea of a new generation or just a new player base being able to look at it and go, I like this game, I think it's a lot of fun. And they kind of take it from there. And obviously you have the complete opposite effect of players that have been around since, you know, longer than some of the current pro players have been alive. So I think that's very much an interesting contrast, and something I think always needs to be celebrated for Quake. It's why so many of us love it and are so fondly attached to it. But one thing that never changes, Flea, are those damn GGs. Things are looking good. And off the back of, you know, our introduction week to the new season, I feel like tough act to follow, but hopefully this week's even better.
I hope so. We've got some excellent matches lined up, a lot of recurring new players. I'm particularly excited to see Rafa Toxic, for instance, as well as Sirius, right? We just got to see some highlights of his matchup last week, and that LG. That's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the name Sirius. The man is serious about his tracking aim, and we're going to get to see him in action in just a few short hours.
It's why so many people love Quake, Flea. Everyone has access to the same tools, the same weapons. Yeah, I think the champions change a little bit of that dynamic when it comes to stack or mobility or whatever. When it comes to those weapons, people have preferences. People have things they're much better with, whether it's the Tox Rail, whether it's the Sirius LG. And, you know, someone like Vengo with the rockets. I mean, the Holy Trinity belongs to everyone. But some players really able to sort of make it thrive just that little bit extra, and I love that. But I tell you what I also love is just that pure legacy that we're going to be seeing come through today. You said it yourself, Rafa versus Toxic. Toxic, a player that's just the old faithful. You know, everyone loves watching him. He's always been this rather unique element in the competitive space, and that's not until way later today. We have plenty more matches to get through before we even come close to finding that one. But that's what Quake Pro League's all about. You know, we have very much so the best players in the business all coming together, giving it their 100%. This is early days in the season, but as we saw as things were closing out last year, you know, you hit those final weeks and those points matter, those placements that you look at early on and think, you know, this player gave up a map here, a map there, maybe if things were a little bit different, if this mistake didn't happen or whatever it is. This is that kind of week where you look back and think, hey, Are we going to see one of those moments today? I guess we'll have to sort of wait and see. But Huron was able to play first last week. He's going to be playing first again this week. Different opponent, though, because it's none other than Maxter. And Maxter Flea, I mean, even if we're looking at how last year ended, not even within the Pro League of Quake, in other tournaments as well, Maxter's been last year.
Oh, he sure has been. Now, also, just a brief addendum to what we just saw, because it wasn't mentioned on the scores from last week, but Rafa versus Saigip played their postponed match, and Rafa ended up taking the win 3-0. So maybe some people didn't quite get to see that, but that is indeed what happened just last night. Now, Ketchup, as you mentioned yourself, Hron versus Maxter.
I mean, I just like to see these two players go. You know, as soon as we can get into that match, the better, because I'm not going to lie, I think we're all a little bit rusty. Maybe some of the players might be. I certainly think, I certainly think I am. I don't know about yourself, Lee. I know you're feeling a little bit under the weather, so we appreciate you joining us today and powering through it for these good games. But it's just an opportunity to get back on the bike, you know, and just sort of see how people are looking. On that note, we do have picks and bans, so we can look at the journey, talk about the maps. Obviously, new rotation. You know, we're going to see some new maps. Well, I say new. Blood Covenant's not exactly new, is it? But rotation changes for a lot of people. Corrupted Keep first, Blood Covenant second, Ruins as the final destination. Then we have the Battle of Speed, right, for the Keep. Anarchy and Slash. Blood Covenant, kind of more what we remember, you know, that Visor versus that Nyx. And then Ruins, we go into that sort of Battle of the Mediums. But at the same time, I mean, we've seen how dangerous a talented Strog's going to be on Ruins. I think crouch sliding in general, obviously Slash being removed earlier, being picked on Corrupted Keep. So a good journey to be had, Flea.
Absolutely, and my eyes are immediately drawn towards that final map, Ruins of Sarnath, Strog versus the Doomslayer. Now, I think overall speaking, based on their recent performances, right, Maxter getting a third place finish at the finals last year. Generally speaking, I think that he should have the upper hand over Hron, but that final map, that Strog pick, that's dangerous because the value that you get out of Doomslayer on Ruins is pretty limited, whereas Strog, you just mentioned it yourself, is an extremely dangerous champion. Now, map 1, Corrupted Keep, we're getting to see two lights, two squishies go up against it. Anarchy versus Slash. Slash, interesting pick on Keep because it's difficult. So difficult to keep that momentum going around all those tight corners and those staircases, but we know that Maxter loves his movement champions, so that shouldn't be much of an issue for him. And then map 2, Blood Covenant, pretty classic matchup. We've got the Visor versus the Nyx. Two champions that work really well on a large arena like this.
Confidence shows, and I think the champion picks can echo that quite considerably. You know, you mentioned it yourself, execution. I mean, Quake Champions is a pretty hard game to execute in general, let alone at the highest level. But if we're talking about those tight little corridor maps, or even the small maps where mobility is kind of tricky, you know, we've seen it with Razy and the likes of Clutch, where he'll kind of be able to pick Clutch on any map, but not anyone can just pick Clutch on those maps and start doing the same thing, right? Because you're going to get stuck on things, you're going to lose momentum, you're going to lose speed, and even that one opportunity where, you know, you miss a turn or two, you get caught in a bad situation and you're dead. In this case, Slash being incredibly weak. And then, yeah, we're kind of just stuck with what's left, you know? The two mediums right at the end there, we've already had the Visor there been taken, the Ranger was removed way early on, Galena was taken away as well. I mean, I doubt you're going to pick Death Knight on Ruins, at least let alone in that situation. So yeah, I think you're quite right in that we'll see how the Doomslayer is going to fare. But prediction-wise, normally at this point, you know, we'll sit and we'll talk about how we think things are going to go. It's hard to bet against Maxter at the moment because of just the shape that Maxter is in. Maxter has just continued to get better and better year after year. And Maxter's not the kind of player I see taking some time to sort of get back into the swing of things, you know, always able to grind, always able to keep up with everyone else and just progressively get better and better. And the results, I think, Flea, have definitely reflected that, whether it's in the Pro League or whether it's in other events that have taken place that Maxter has been able to do exceptionally well in, and in some cases win outright. So I think he's in good shape here.
Absolutely. He came in 7th in the overall standings during the previous season, so that's the weeklies that I'm talking about. And then the finals, 3rd place, only behind Kilson and Razy. That's incredible. And as you mentioned yourself, right, we talked about it briefly before the show went live. He won the King Kong LAN in Barcelona last year as well. That was his first LAN victory, following it up with a bronze medal on the Quake World Championships. Maxter is absolutely killing it right now.
But Hron, the kind of player to sort of fear nobody. I think confidence has historically been something that can keep Hron behind a little bit. I don't want that to be almost like an old tale, perhaps, because, you know, we're always talking about the now. Players are able to get more confident and more comfortable. And Hron, highly talented player, one of the original champions in the entire game, right? Year 1, QuakeCon. Hron was looking pretty good for himself in the old sacrifice department. So as we jump on right now, we'll be starting things off, looking at things from Hron's point of view. And it's going to be that Anarchy straight up first. Getting the Mega Side spawn, having a nice amount of health is great. But in this Battle of the Light, you're always thinking about that armor. And I think Maxter had a pretty good spawn right there.
What Hron's focusing on right now is trying to deny access to some key weapons, right? The LG, Maxter does slip by, get a hold of that. But the rockets, I believe he doesn't yet have. So Hron has an advantage when it comes to the weaponry. That LG, brutal, murderous. Maxter has to retreat. Both items up at around the same time. Hron kind of hitting his head on the ledge right there. But he does get the Mega. And again, 3 unreturned damage. Maxter can't compete at that distance. He doesn't have the heavy machine gun, so Hron knows that he can get 3 safe damage from those engagements.
And the first time that engagement happened, although Maxter did take a ton of damage, wasn't the worst time to have to disengage, as we did have the heavy just about to appear in 2 rather nice-looking rockets. Swiftly undone there by Hron's inject, and that's going to be a 1-0. A lot of weapons good to go, and with the Mega in position, Maxter, the important thing is going to be just keep that timing. Keep some of the items in your hand, because the moment things spiral out of control for you in this kind of matchup, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Maxter getting that heavy, making sure that we're keeping ourselves nice and ready for the next fight too. A complete even split, really, down the middle between the 2 items. And Hron playing it nice and careful, just listen out for where Maxter's going to be. Tries to get some damage if he can take it. In this case, some opening damage from Maxter, highly dangerous. And Maxter is going to know that Hron just picked up that armor. Is it going to be enough to survive? No, it won't. As now it will be 1-1. But again, the timing, just in time for that heavy to spawn. And now Maxter looking pretty chunky here. Hron not having a ton of weapons as he has only just spawned. But LG and Rocket, it could be worse, but he can't get out. And that's now going to be 2-1 Flea.
Hron deciding not to use the injection right there. He had it up. He could have given himself a lot of health to work with, but he just hang on to it. And now Maxter. Is this the start of the snowball catch-up?
It could be.
Is this how it begins?
It could be, Flea, because holding on to the inject and then using it basically fresh off the spawn kill that took place. I mean, you're firing back, you're getting good damage, Hron knows that, but you're going to use the inject, you're stuck in a position where you can't actually fire for a split second, and you can't undo the damage, and then now you've got no ability, and now it's 5-1, right? And Hron actually still, an inject down! Maxter comes flying around the corner, takes yet another one, and you said it yourself there, Flea, Snowball. I mean, it's corrupted keep, man, we've seen this for years and years, this is what this map is known for, and if the control starts to spiral out on the side of Hron, there's no delay on these items anymore. Maxter, if he keeps himself going and keeps that pressure strong, could cycle this entire map for as long as he wants, and that's not good news for Hron.
Absolutely not. Maxter indeed securing Mega first, then Heavy. He's got both of them, just running circles around the map now, but Hron is doing a good job at denying access to the Mega room. Maxter pays for it. Quite a lot of health lost. He can't make a push for it. Hron holds his ground. Maxter has to make a drop for the Heavy, won't get down in time, and now Hron, just like that, turns it around. That one fight at the doorway into the Mega room changed so much, Ketchup.
And then I think at the same time, Maxter kind of maybe just conceding the frag there and thinking, if at least I can take away this Heavy, I'm going to be able to stunt this comeback perhaps. But just a second too early. Didn't want to give things up for free, but what else are you going to do? It almost felt like in that situation, Maxter had already committed. May as well just go all the way. However, it has given Hron an opening here, as now we have more of these items about to spawn, but no! Caught out immediately. Maxter turning things around with that super shotgun happily. 2 shots. See you later, mate. Hron dies right before or after the inject. So now that's gone for about 40 seconds as well. Not good news for Hron, and Maxter looking really dominant right now.
Those point blanks, they really are anarchies. Achilles heel.
Why do my spreads never hit like that?
Yeah. Oh, the LG so good. Chrom showing his face for a little too long. He could have left so much earlier, but he wanted that damage. He was greedy for that one big rocket to land. Didn't get the hit. And Maxter just traced him perfectly with that edging.
That's going to go from bad to worse at this point. Swapping out for a rocket, just trying to get some extra damage if he can, but this is not a good situation for Chrom. Maxter, even before taking that heavy, kind of looks like he gave it a few extra seconds to put a fat 10-second delay between these two items. And that is the perfect recipe if you want to just continue this era of dominance. Maxter keeping the chase on nice and strong. However, here comes a bit more of that armor taken up there by Chrom, and that is going to be the key to being able to win that fight. And hey, look, it's 4-10, but it's corrupted keep and we've got 5 minutes left to go. The comeback could still happen. Unfortunately, if Ron takes more damage like that, maybe not so, as it is still 20 seconds away from the inject. A couple of small health bubbles here and there to keep himself nice and healthy. But the major item control is still in the hand of Maxter. This comeback for Ron is going to be so hard. He has to get out of there. He knows he can't put himself onto heavy, because what are you going to do? Just get hit by a little bit of LG and die? It's not worth it.
Luckily for him, there's still plenty of time, but not if things go like that. Maxter, I don't think he took a single shred of damage right there. Chrom just standing there like a deer caught in the headlights, and Maxter flies on by, finishes him off. That LG shoddy combo is really working out for him, but Chrom, with 20 points of health left, lands a rocket. He needs so much more than that. He needs another big one. Gets the trade. Who gets the better spawn for heavy? Both players racing for it. Chrom will be first.
Woo!
There we go. This could turn into something nice.
It could, and that fight in LG room was very unfortunate there for Maxter. Miscalculated his ammo. Tried to go in for an LG, didn't have it. Click comes out, forced swapping weapons. That microsecond of lost time was more than enough for Chrom to win the fight. Unfortunately, goes down right as the Mega's going to spawn, so Chrom's not going to be able to take that either. This plasma trail is going to make it so scary for Chrom, who had already dedicated to jumping down there. And that's just going to be a combo you don't want to be a part of here. Spawning with no resources. Yeah, the LG's here. Doesn't get a lot of spray, but who cares, because the spread's great on that final shot. And that's going to be the one that kills. 16-7. And we're talking about time. Unfortunately, though, now it is starting to run out. And with a rocket like that, Ron is just like, bro, what am I going to do? What do I do now?
Absolutely nothing. That's what. Another shoddy to finish it off. 3 minutes for 10 kills. Yes, it is possible on the map that is Corrupted Keep, but is it going to happen against Maxter, who's looking oh so strong? He's going to add another frag to that list of his, and now Chrom. This is desperation, Ketchup.
It's that horrible moment where you know you're lightning amounts of years behind. You can't really do anything about it. You can't play careful anymore because you play careful, you play slow, and you can't play slow when the time's not on your side. So you kind of have to just pile yourself into almost every single situation. 2.5 minutes to get 10 frags, as Maxter's now going to just continue to cycle these items. It's pretty much going to be a GG right here, but a solid start. You know, things were nice and back and forth at the very beginning, but it just was Maxter. The moment we started to see that substantial delay between those two items was when Maxter started to really separate. It did work against Maxter a little bit, as Chrom did take that small potential comeback using the delay to get both items for himself and then start to mount something that can get him back into the game. But as things can go, and I think with that absolutely brutal display of accuracy on LG, and the know-how to go into the super shotgun right when Chrom really doesn't want you to. That's kind of all Maxter needed to take a rather comfortable first game. And right now, just go through that minute and a half. Just keep yourself nice and high on the execution side of things. Chrom, gonna have to be thinking about that next map right now. There's really nothing left to do.
Yeah. I feel like Chrom almost seemed overwhelmed by the speed at which Maxter was playing. Just the raw aggression. Running into the room, LG into shoddy, time and time again. Chrom caught out, unable to really do anything. I almost feel like Chrom's successes, Ketchup, the frag that he did get, were really just his rockets. When Maxter jumped into the room and Chrom managed to land 1 or 2 good rockets, get a lucky bounce, pin Maxter against the wall and finish him off. I feel like those are pretty much the only way that he was able to consistently get some frags on the board, and Maxter was so dominant in every other aspect.
Very few mistakes from Maxter. I think at the same time as well, there was that one split second where he miscalculated his LG ammo and gave up a fight because of that. That was about halfway through, which could have, in theory, been some kind of opening there for Hron, but I think there's such a divide between the frags anyway that, you know, not going to be too much really to punish him. But that's kind of what we mean. I think Maxter's just played this map incredibly well, and the execution comes into a huge part of that. He's been able to stay lightning fast. He's been able to hit the LG to a degree that is horrendous for Hron to deal with, and then just going into the super shotgun because he just has the stack in his mind. He knows the perfect time to swap to it. So kind of just doing everything you need to do on Corrupted Keep to get a decisive win, Maxter was able to do here. So it is only one map. There's plenty more where that came from, but as far as first maps of the day go, I think Maxter can feel pretty good about that.
And for the people watching at home and who are wondering about the ping situation, both of these players are pretty close to one another. Both are playing at below 30 ping, so there's no lag, no issues like that going on in this matchup. Well-deserved Maxter, taking away that first map, and convincingly so. And this is his first showing in the new season catch-up, and I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Welcome back, mate. That's all we can say about that, especially with that first map. You look at the fact that we have, you know, 2 light, the damage side of things, Maxter hitting basically 5,500, and then the armor. That was one of the things I was sort of keeping my eye on the entire time, and it all seemed to perhaps just stem off the very beginning. Maxter started near heavy and was able to kind of control heavy for 90% of the map that took place there. Starting off in a good situation, keeping that timing, I would say surgical. There were a couple of instances where he was about a second too early, and it did result in him going down and Hron taking it. But for the most part, it was just keeping that armor locked and loaded. You're just that healthy all the time. You're 2 light champions, and someone has considerably more armor than you, and they're hitting LG the way that Maxter is. I mean, even Hron was hitting some good LG. I mean, look at these replays. The point is, though, if the damage is on board and you have that much armor, what are you supposed to do?
I also love that in the meantime, both players are casually chatting about cosmetics while they're in the lobby, just appreciating the additions to the Quake Battle Pass and such. Just a very, very friendly, casual environment. Now also, when I'm looking back at these kills from Maxter's point of view catch-up, one of the things that really stands out to me is just how disciplined he's been with some of these shots to finish the fights. Very often, he doesn't shoot that shotgun as soon as he's able to, but he waits. He hangs on to it for half a second, and then makes sure that he will connect with the full blast to get as much damage in as possible. And that's the kind of level of discipline that you would expect from a player like him.
It comes back into the confidence that we were talking about, and that's half the battle in a game like this, isn't it? I guess same could be said about almost any esport out there, or, I mean, anything competitive that exists in the world today. You need to have that confident brain to say, I can do this, I know that I can execute this or pull this off. In a game like this, if you know that you have what it takes to move around the way that Maxter is able to with these champions, to hit the shots he's able to hit. We are now going into Blood Covenant, so it's going to be a drastic change from Corrupted Keep. You know, we're going to see the rail, and not just that, but it's a rail-heavy map. You know, we've kind of gone 2 complete opposite areas then, starting with Corrupted Keep and going into Blood Covenant now. But no signs of slowing down in theory, but perhaps having the ability to, you have a medium champion now, you have the stack advantage, you've got that piercing sight, and you're on a rail heavy map, a map that Hron has been competing in this game since the very, very beginning, because he really was one of those original players, one of those original almost innovators, not afraid to use new champions or explore new techniques. There's a lot there, I think, in the back end that maybe you could pull out for a map like this, but we'll see how things go. Both players have now loaded in, both wearing a cool hat, if I do say so myself. And we'll be jumping in real soon now. Warm up, Flea, 10 seconds. I mean, bro, we're jumping into our second map already. Love it.
Yeah, man, time flies when you're watching Quake. Starting it off on the perspective of... We're actually on Maxter. Oh no, we are on Hron. Hron running the visor. Immediately racing for that railgun. Lands the first shot. Good start for him. He's still got a bit of armor up here to fall back on as well. And that's gonna be one of the main advantages that he has over Maxter. You mentioned it yourself, that stack advantage playing a medium champion against the light. He's still lacking some weapons though. He's gotta make his way over to the rockets. Maxter so aggressive with that ghost walk. That's pretty rare, I feel like, to see an aggressive Ghost Wall come out within the first 30 seconds of the game. But Maxter goes for it.
Kron playing a scary game right there. It doesn't want to just immediately go to Mega. Knows that it's free for the taking, so it's going to be his no matter what. But just try to prevent this giant difference in stack. Now, Maxter's going to take the heavy. Maybe we can hit an opening rail. But with how weak Kron was there, it was a risky game to play. But as we have just started off, maybe a risk worth taking. Hasn't conceded a frag yet, however, is still considerably far behind. The defensive rail's looking real good, especially seeing as that rocket was not returned there by Maxter. That's just a free rail on its own, as we're now going to cycle towards another set of these items. Mega is going to spawn, but once again, both players are going to know the timing here, especially for Kron on that heavy, because he saw it taken last time. So where do we go from here is the question. Only 3 rails left to go for Kron. The rail's been the big thing that's keeping him in this fight, so hopefully he doesn't run out too soon. Maxter, caught slipping. No wall jump for you, mate. As there's one rail to start things off. And the chase is on. Maxter now having to be a very careful player himself. Kron, I gotta say, bringing himself more than back into things with how much of a deficit he was facing at the start of this match. Really impressive that he stayed alive for this long, Flea.
It sure is. And like you mentioned yourself, the rail really has been Kron's saving grace. So far, he's landed 5 railgun shots. Maxter has only been able to return 1. Otherwise, I feel like we would have been looking at a 2-0 for Maxter already, but Kron has been able to utilize that weapon defensively so effectively. Every single time that Maxter finds an opportunity to push, it's like Kron lands at 90 damage to his face, forces him back, buys himself some more breathing room. Again, they trade. Once more, Kron gets a health bubble. Whoa! 1, 2, 3. Maxter goes down just before the Mega spawns.
I do like that play from Maxter though, right at the beginning there. The last time that unreturned rail took place right near Mega, it was because of that angle, and I think Maxter was kind of waiting for the same thing to happen again. Caught onto a potential pattern, but wasn't enough to prevent the 3 rails back to back. As Kron secures that first frag, springs the ambush here. Doesn't do enough to finish the job. Forced to retreat. Wait a minute, Maxter with the Ghost Walk, so weak. Doesn't overcommit though, and that was a really smart decision. I was kind of half thinking, wait, is he going to push this? There's no way he's going to push this. And of course, he didn't push this.
Both major items picked up at the exact same time. Maxter taking Mega, Kron taking Heavy. First opening rail right now is going to be so crucial. Maxter doesn't have the Ghost Walk up yet. If Kron lands it, he does. To be able to buy him a good position. Oh, bets him a kill, even better.
I really liked that. Really liked that patience there for Kron. Being sort of knocked off course by that opening rocket there from Maxter and still able to stay patient enough to just hit the shot a little bit later. Good stuff, and it was that damage, sowing the seeds for what would eventually be a second frag here in map number 2. Kron, plenty of stack to party with, and pretty much every weapon you could ever want for how Kron's going to play. Loads and loads of rail ammo, defensive rockets if need be, loads of LG, I mean, doesn't really need anything else, and the piercing sight's good to go as well. It's a near perfect scenario. The next question is going to be, where does this fight take place? Over what? Now, these items are going to be spawning at pretty much the same time. There's the defensive Ghost Walk there from Maxter. Kron using the piercing sight later and catching Maxter right as he reappears. Secures yet another frag here. And this is looking so good for Kron right now.
Mentioned it during map 1 as well. Those rockets, the defensive rockets from Kron have been spectacular. Buying him once again a point on the scoreboard. Kron's being very cautious as well. Maxter immediately showed that he was not afraid to use that Ghost Walk aggressively in the very opening stages of this map, and Kron is now hyper aware of that possibility, that Maxter might push him like that again.
The rail battle takes place once more, Flea. Not having that 100% accuracy so far, and only 5, I mean, we had 5 seconds until Mega. Kron was not going to survive that. Nothing to save his skin. The 5-minute warning is true. Kron, nice and stacked, but no weaponry, especially as Maxter just took that LG ammo, so Kron can't even get that. A rocket is in place. The rail has been picked up as well. I know we're checking things out from Maxter's point of view, however, Kron, 2 of the 3 really important weapons. Opening damage, 50. Doesn't get the rail. That would have been a game changer a considerable amount of time until the next set of items, and we haven't even touched on this. One thing that makes this matchup so interesting is the eternal fight for the hourglasses. Two champions that are so heavily reliant on just putting their abilities to good use. But if they're against each other, controlling those hourglasses is another vital resource to have here. And these rails! Oh my lord! Not able to hit as much shots as both players were wanting. I mean, I think we're all sweating a little bit after watching that.
I love the confidence from both of these players. Neither one has an issue just going for that final rail shot. Both of them down to 20 points of health, and they peek again and again and again, confident that they'll be the one to hit the kill shot. Neither one did in that exchange, but still. Oh, Maxter gets Mega. Rockets, they're good. Kron bounces to the corner.
The Ghost Walk! Oh, Maxter! Surviving that fight because of the invincibility through that rocket, and then coming out the other side, putting Fron in a rather scary position. There's a little bit of stack to collect here. Yeah, sure. And I guess the rocket, haven't got to go out of your way to get that rocket either. But now Maxter very much on the hunt. Now that rail was definitely going to stop things a little bit, preventing Fron. But now Hron shutting down the usefulness of that Mega. Maxter forced to retreat, and this is going to take time. Time that Hron's probably going to want to play with Flea.
Good rocket. Oh, a rail to follow it up as well. I like that he used the Ghost Walk right away right there. Didn't want to risk taking too much damage in that engagement. Just popped it. Knowing that it's important for him with 3 minutes left to go and a 1 frag deficit.
Uh-oh.
He doesn't give up anything. Good rails, Kron. His aim, placed with the railgun, kind of starting to falter.
Oh!
And Maxter! The drop down rail. Kron tried to make his way out of the room, not fast enough. Takes one to the back.
Now, there's going to be respect shown here from Maxter. Yes, you've just spawned, and yes, you've only got an LG, but a good LG can sometimes be all you need, especially at a range like that, so he's not going to overcommit. You know, putting all this work to mount this comeback and bring yourself back into the fight here in map 2. There's no need to throw it away just yet. We have 2.5 minutes left to go. And now, Hron building the arsenal back up and pretty much good to go. And oh my lord, that tri-bolt! That is the last thing you wanted, and Hron forced to escape, but 13 seconds away from piercing sight. So not going to be able to use that defensively. Stuck in, I mean, the staircase of hell. Who likes being stuck there? I think no one.
Such a good read from Maxter as well. Pushing in with the Ghost Walk. Knew exactly where Kron would be going for. This should be another... Oh! Hang on. I was about to say this should be another frag for him as well, but then he ate a full tribal to the face. That's 115 points of damage, more than a direct rocket even. And Kron still has a lifeline to tie this up. 90 seconds left to go, 1 frag down. But Maxter, so sneaky.
Why push?
Figures out Kron's routing.
That's the question, Flea, isn't it? Why push? Maxter knows there's no real need to. If we can just keep these angles nice and strong, dominate this high ground, and hit rails back to back like that, 3 of which. We just need to play a solid game now, a defensive game, one that is now going to keep Kron considerably behind. And now with a minute left to go, what a strong start it was for the Visor, but through, I think, rather slow and calculated decisions, Maxter's been able to bring this one back and then some, now on the verge of a 2-0 at least. And this is that level of composure. You get forced back, not able to return a lot of rails, Flea, and now the rails are being quite happily returned. We're starting to see a very different story to Blood Covenant.
Yeah, Maxter has significantly overtaken Kron when it comes down to the rail. In the beginning, 2-3 minutes in, we saw a clear advantage for Kron. Kron had 55% railgun accuracy at one point. Maxter significantly less, also far fewer shots fired, but now the tables have turned and it's Maxter sitting at 56% railgun accuracy, having landed more shots than his opponent. So Kron started off so convincing with that railgun keeping him in things, but the moment that started to slip, the moment he started to miss some of those crucial shots, Maxter closed the gap and made up for it.
It's rather strange though as well, isn't it? I know we're talking about the highest level of Quake here, but there's still something to factor in, the difference of the hitboxes of the champions. You know, you look at someone struggling to hit the other, you wouldn't really expect Maxter to be the one having difficulties at the start because he has the smaller champion, right? But, you know, it's just one of those things. The more the map goes on, the more confident you feel, the more comfortable you feel with that rail. Maxter ending things on a rather respectable 55% overall. Quite a lot of shots fired, so I think he'll happily take that, and he'll happily take this second map win. Quite a lot to unravel from that, but it's got to be said, just the instinctive ghost walks, the reactive ones as well. That real game-changing ghost walk that was used about halfway through. We might see it in these replays. Maxter able to use it kind of just as an answer to a rocket that absolutely would have secured a frag. I don't think we quite saw it in this replay, but it doesn't really matter. But it was a turning point to bring Maxter back into the fight and then just keep a nice composed game going from that point on. 5-3. Respectable showing from both sides, but it'll be Maxter just taking the edge, just that little extra bit. And now, Flea, the final map, the map that you were the most interested in. Strog versus Doomslayer. Could this be a chance for Hron to bring it back here, get a map?
I mean, from the very beginning, I already thought that this is the one that Hron has the best chance of winning. The matchup, in terms of champions, on this map favors him. Ruins of Sarnath is a map, an arena where speed, mobility matters a lot. And Doomslayer, he's got mobility of his own, he's got the double jump, but there's just not that many places where the double jump really helps you out, the same way it does in, for example, Awoken or Deep Embrace. So overall, Strog, especially by being able to use the Peeker with the verticality as well, there's just so many places where that champion really shines, whereas when it comes down to the Doomslayer, it's kind of struggling to see where that is going to work out in favor of Maxter. So I do think that if Hron is going to take a map, this is the one.
Yeah, mobility's one element of Doomslayer, probably said by many to be kind of his most important area, but I suppose there are some other areas too. Is the Berserk going to do much here? I guess we'll wait and see. Potentially not, but you know Maxter. Always having a little bit of a trick up his sleeve, especially if it comes down to something like that. But if you're able to just consistently hit those shots and just play a damn solid game of Quake, there's still going to be a chance here. You know, this matchup isn't going to be decided just by the champion select on its own, but I think you're right. It, on paper, will give Hron quite a considerable edge. But on the opposite end of that, if Maxter is able to hit the shots that he needs to and win those fights kind of the old-fashioned way perhaps, then maybe there's going to be an element here to just take that 3-0. I think Maxter would feel very good if he can 3-0 this series, especially because of this final map. But Hron, as we said at the very start of this day, you know, you reach the end of seasons and you start looking at maps here and there that really should have gone your way, and maybe if they did, things would be better even as you lead up to the finals right at the end of the year. This can't be one of those moments. You know, you've got to try and take the advantage when you can get it. Make the most out of it.
One of the things that I really want to see out of Hron this map is perhaps some more focus on the timings. Especially on Blood Covenant catch-up, there were several costly mistimings by Hron, where he wasn't quite sure when an item would spawn, and he would be sitting up on Mega, say 5 seconds early, trying to dodge rails, and then Maxter gets the kill and walks away with the item. So his item timings on Hron's end, at least, sometimes a little sloppy on the previous map, I feel like, so that could be tightened up a bit.
Now we're starting things from Hron's point of view, and the important thing at the beginning here is just data. Listen out for what Maxter's doing, listened out for when that heavy had been collected, and then just try and mount some kind of opening damage before you explode. In this instance, though, taking a rail, not one that Hron was comfortable with at all. And as we have been sitting around near Mega, oh dear, gets the kamikaze, but just cannot look to the left fast enough. Maxter had been sent flying, and that was more than enough to create that rail angle that sent him through to take this as a 1-0 so far. And you do kind of think that was an opportunistic push right there, Flea.
I do agree. That could have very easily gone either way. Hron, a little bit more damage with the Peeker, perhaps. One more shot, because Maxter is really low. He was down to 25 points of health, something like that. Hron could have walked away with the frag right there. And now we're seeing the game slow down a bit. Very little delay between the items. Heavy spawns first, will be going in Maxter's way. Hron heard the pickup, goes for Mega. Not sure if Maxter heard the Mega being picked up from that distance. That could be a bit of informational advantage for Hron, because he definitely knows when both of the major items are up. I'm not sure if Maxter does too.
Yeah, my only thought process was because he hit just a little bit of tri-bolt damage, you might think that, you know, if he's standing there, perhaps he's taken it. So I do wonder, actually, as we do go into this Mega next time, how in position is Maxter going to be now? 3 seconds left. And I think we are just going to have a straight-up swapsies of these items now. The Mega's in place. But Maxter's not going to be satisfied with the pickup. Oh, my lord! That read was really, really good. However, has it taken him too long now to be able to take the item? Yeah, Hron has both, but Maxter did so much damage, he's kind of nullified the usefulness of it. There's a rail. Hron, unfortunately for himself, does not have a rail, so he's not going to be able to return fire. And I think that's something that Maxter just must have been ready for. Why would he hold that angle if there was a chance of getting a rail in return? And as there wasn't even an attempt at a shot, he's got to be confident that back then he didn't have nothing to return from that distance. And there's a Berserk now, Maxter, using it for that kind of just instant speed boost, really. One of the nice little uses, I suppose, of that Berserk there. Better than it was, that's for sure. Long time ago.
I feel like this is pretty sloppy by Hron, what we're seeing. I wish I could put it a different way, but I think sloppy really describes it well. He's jumping around the corners carelessly, not really checking his angles, giving up free railgun damage to Max, who just set up down below.
Where you going?
Maxter chasing him down, of course. He smelled the blood in the water, knew Hron was so low. But yeah, Hron, I feel like he's careless almost. Ketchup just jumping around these corners, not really covering his angles, giving up quite a bit of free damage to his opponent, and Maxter has really just made the most out of it.
I wonder if Maxter was even rather surprised that those 2 items were so easy to take. We're in a position where there's plenty of this map left to go. Yeah, 3 frags, it's not the highest amount in the world, but if you're able to just fly around this map as a champion that doesn't have the greatest mobility in the world. Gotta say, though, actually, the use of the Berserk has been really impressive. Just being able to get those kind of straight-up vertical punches to descend much, much faster than other champions are able to. I wonder if maybe that's just an extra element. You know, pop the Berserk, take the Mega, and then just go for a straight-up looking down at the ground punch, and then you kind of put yourself towards heavy a little bit faster. Maybe there is some tech there. Learn something new every day here on Pro League, as you always do.
Indeed, Maxter's use of the Berserk, it hasn't been offensive, right? He's never gone for the damage with it. It's also not exactly defensive. He's not using it to really run away, but he's using it to get onto the items. That one didn't quite pan out the way he wanted it to.
Both punches did not go anywhere. That's unfortunate.
Oh, yeah. Now, we're about 5 minutes into this game. Maxter has a 4-frag lead, but Hron finally able to get rid of a lot of that stack. Decent rocket. Finds the rail as well. There we go. Hron gets himself on the board. Tries to force out the spawn. Doesn't quite get the one he wants. Mega goes his way. Now racing over towards Heavy as well. This is nice. 5 seconds between the items. Hron starting a rotation. He's got the weapons. He's got the stack. This is the turning point if he can make it happen.
I think Maxter quite appropriately just sort of made some lemonade with those lemons, because although he did have to give up those items, actually might not even be necessary to bring up as we have another fight on our hands. Doesn't quite manage to hit the rail. And now this defensive Berserk straight out of there. Will he be able to survive, though? Does Hron push? Looks like he will. Oh, my God. Maxter finding 100 damage and then anything necessary to finish the job. And it was, I gotta say, Flea, the Berserk and the ability to put himself in position much faster. I love new tech, folks. That's what I'm here for.
I think that's going to be a bit of a blow to Hron's mental state.
Oh, yeah.
That should have been his. He should have been walking away with that frag, with the rotation, with the weapons, the items, everything. But then Maxter lands 2 perfect rockets, turns it around. Gets the frag. Nice use of the double jump. Hron.
This has to be it, I feel like. Yeah, you go for a fight like that. The Pika just doesn't really do much. You've just gone fresh off the spawn. A vertical rail does return a shot, though, which is really, really good. But, no, I think we have been seeing elements of just demoralizing plays. Now, hang on a minute. Does get the rail, though. Maxter misses the shot. Is this Hron's chance? Oh, he's so tender, though, Flea. He's taken so much damage.
That was a beautiful spin on Maxter's end. I really don't think I've ever seen that strategy used in the Quake Pro League before.
He had nothing left, mate. He had nothing left. He had to try
spinning
something.
his mouse.
If that resulted in a miss, I would have been out of my chair.
That would have been the new meta born right there. And now Chrom, he's on the hunt. His trusty railgun in hand.
Ooh, wow.
Nice rocket from Maxter. Oh, Maxter, so good.
Oh, he
And
got stuck!
again,
Did Ron get stuck?
he did get stuck, yeah. He fumbled the jump over the little ledge. I've been calling it this entire map, Ketchup. Sloppy. That's the only way that I can really describe it.
Oh, you know, we were just talking about movement at the start of this too, where we were talking about players that, you know, it can look so effortless sometimes, but if you get stuck on a wall, you take this one bad turn and you're toast. Look no further than that situation right there. Poor old Ron. That is not what you want, let alone 7-2 now in the favor of Maxter. Just over 2 minutes on the clock left to go. LG's good though. Okay. Bit of a messy push in there from Maxter and pays the price for it.
He gets the spawn he wanted to as well. Chrom forcing him into that corner. One more rail will do it. That's a costly miss. There we go. Straight to the knee. As Maxter tries to get around the corner.
That was the classic Strog right
Oh,
there.
here we go.
Oh, okay.
Chrom!
Oh, are we just going to decide to not miss right now? We're just not going to miss any shots? That's how we bring it back? I'm here for it.
All he needs is the railgun. He says rockets? Who cares? He's just gonna ignore them completely. Railgun and LG if it comes down to it.
I
But
mean,
Maxter knows.
Fleet, come on.
Maxter knows that momentum has shifted against him, and now he's slowing the game down. Doesn't even go through the teleporter.
I'm not going to push any of these fights. My opponent has a golden railgun. I'm not even going to mess with that. Dripped out the eyeballs. With his snowman head. Uh-oh. Okay. That rocket did sort of mess with things a little bit. Chrom, still nice and healthy though. But as you quite rightly said, just slowing things down. Now, fortunately for Chrom, if this was the other way round, we would be maybe saying like, right, you've got a champion who's considerably faster than you. That said, we have been seeing some rather unique angles taken from Maxter with these defensive and just mobility-focused berserks, and with these rails and Chrom unable to return any damage. This is not good because he's forced to jump down. I feel like Maxter could see that coming a mile away, and
Yeah.
I feel like Chrom does not have the time to recover from this.
Perfect read from the player from Argentina. And now half a minute left to go. Chrom, he needs a miracle. And those past rails just weren't it. Some costly misses. Another one. That was a very difficult shot, to be clear, but he needs to land them if he wants the shot at redemption. But no, this is it. Maxter can just chill in that little corner. Chrom running for his life, but at this point, mathematically impossible. The clock runs down, and that will be a well-deserved 3-0 win for Maxter, getting off to an excellent start to the season. Congratulations.
Not much else to say about that really, other than just thoroughly well played. I think Maxter approached all three maps nice and carefully calculated, and execution. It's one of those things that I love about watching Maxter, is just pushing the boundaries of every champion pick that he has, and just showing a real mastery of those champions too. It's not super common in a game like this, I think, that you'll take someone or players that have such a vast, diverse pool of characters or champions or heroes, whatever the game is that you play, to be able to execute at such a high level, and Maxter's able to do that. You know, all three of these maps, we saw perfect movement, perfect execution on that movement. The aim was just wonderful, as it always is. But all of these small little tricks that you can pull off, and we even saw that on that final map. We were sitting here questioning whether the Doomslayer was going to be able to do much against the Strog here, and then almost immediately we start to see why the Berserk kind of appeared to be the main reasoning behind that pick, and using it in such a way that even Strog can't chase you because he can't fall fast enough to chase you. That's smart stuff, and that's specialist stuff. That's Quake at the highest level stuff, and I'm here for it.
On the other hand, Chrom off to a rough start.
Yeah.
I feel like there were a lot of mistakes. His aim was on point. I feel like that's the one thing that he did have going for him. Some costly misses towards the end, yes, but generally speaking, his LG was solid, his rockets were really good, his rail was on point, at least for most of the games. So, can't really complain there, but just the overall decision making. Sometimes bad misplays, mistiming, showing up on the item 5 seconds early, dropping the frag just before giving away full control, and then on that final map, sloppy. not checking his angles, blindly jumping around corners. Maxter able to get so much unreturned damage in. I think Kron, he's struggling. Now, it's only the very beginning of the season, right? And we know that Kron hasn't been able to play and practice all that much. But still, he lost to Sip last week. Managed to get one map in that encounter at least. But today, 3-0, no points on the board for him. That's difficult.
It's one of those elements where you can understand why the performance is the way it is, but it just ultimately led to Maxter just playing better Quake. And that was the deciding factor. Almost every single little area that, whether it was mind games, just knowledge in general, reads, and just making those decisions on where I think the opponent's going to be. How desperate are they likely to be in the situation? I've got a good feeling about this one. Maxter was pretty much bang on the money every time, and then everything else just sort of came naturally in those matches, as it does at this level of play. But that's going to be things for our first matchup of the day. Plenty more Quake where that came from. I'm looking at the schedule now. Up next, I mean, come on, Kilson versus Avec. I think quite a few of you are going to be excited for that one. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Pro League continues for week 2. Cheers.